Pressure is a constant in Formula One, but for Liam Lawson, his debut at Red Bull turned into an absolute nightmare. In a team where even the smallest mistake can prove costly, a rough start only makes the journey more difficult. After just one race, questions are already being raised about his position within the team. With fresh statements about Red Bull's 2026 seat and the fact that he was the highest qualified Red Bull driver in Australia besides Verstappen, a major question looms: could we see a mid-season driver switch like in 2019? And if so, would it be justified? For Lawson, this race was a massive challenge, but the outcome only exposed his weaknesses. There's no doubt that his time at Red Bull has been anything but smooth, and the Australian Grand Prix just reinforced that fact. In a team where every single point matters, failing to capitalize on opportunities is simply unacceptable. With multiple drivers retiring from the race, Lawson had a golden chance to move up the order. But instead he found himself stuck between two Haas cars, unable to make any meaningful progress. But it's not just about performance, it's about adaptability. Driving a Red Bull car is no easy task, and that difference becomes clearer with every race. When Max Verstappen pulls off maneuvers that seem impossible for anyone else, it highlights just how demanding the RB21 truly is. Lawson's struggles in Australia brought back memories of why Red Bull has been so quick to replace drivers in the past. Throughout the weekend, the 22-year-old failed to make an impact. When he attempted to stay on slick tires longer, hoping to gain an advantage, it backfired completely. He lost control, spun, and hit the barrier at the exit of Turn 1. Earlier, in the race, he had another close call, spinning in the final set of corners but narrowly avoiding the grass. Meanwhile, his Racing Bulls teammates outqualified him, and Coda put in a strong performance before the race turned chaotic. This is something Red Bull will keep in mind when evaluating their drivers for the future. The primary reason Lawson was brought into the team was to deliver consistent points and capitalize on unpredictable races. Moments like this, where other drivers crash out or struggle, are exactly when a team like Red Bull expects their second driver to step up and gain positions. Looking at how Antonelli handled his weekend, it's clear that this is the kind of performance Red Bull was hoping for from Lawson. Starting from the pit lane, the young Italian managed to climb through the field, while Lawson, despite having more Formula One experience, found himself stuck at the back. This was his 12th race in F1, meaning he wasn't exactly a rookie anymore. After the race, Lawson admitted that the gamble to stay out on slicks was a mistake. He explained, "We took a chance, hoping at least half the track would stay dry. We knew Sector 3 was bad, but we thought Sector 1 would hold up. Unfortunately, the rain intensified, and at that point I backed off because it was too wet. Honestly, it was a tough weekend. We struggled with tire issues from the start." Lawson will want to forget his Red Bull debut as quickly as possible. But in a team like this, tough weekends come at a price. The pressure on him was already intense, given the controversial decision to promote him over Coda. With expectations sky high, delivering a poor performance right out of the gate only fuels speculation about his future. The RB21 is a difficult car to handle, but had Lawson managed to qualify higher, he could have avoided many of the struggles he faced in the race. While it's tough to say for sure, staying out of the chaos in the midfield could have made a huge difference. His struggles in wet conditions only made matters worse, as he failed to keep the car under control when it mattered most. To make things even more challenging, he isn't just being compared to his teammates, he's being measured against Max Verstappen, a driver who makes even seasoned competitors look average. But no one expected Lawson to match Max's performance. The real concern is that the gap should have been around 3 or 4 tenths of a second per lap, yet Lawson was nowhere near that level. Falling short in qualifying was one thing, but failing to make up ground in the race was an even bigger issue. In Formula One, starting the season strong is crucial. A solid first race builds confidence and momentum for the rest of the year. Unfortunately for Lawson, his first outing was anything but promising. Now, just one race into the season, his seat is already being questioned. Coda made a bold statement by qualifying P5 in Australia, and while he didn't score points, his performance was strong enough to turn heads. He managed to hold off Albon and both Ferrari drivers for a significant portion of the race. However, when the rain arrived, he struggled to keep the car under control and ultimately had to pit, dropping him out of the top 10. It was a disappointing end to what could have been a great result, but his overall performance still made a positive impression. For Lawson, this presents a tough situation. He can argue that the changing conditions in Melbourne made things difficult for everyone, including Coda. But the real issue isn't just about handling chaos, it's about showing enough pace to fight for positions. In Lawson's case, the inability to overtake slower cars only raises concerns about his competitiveness. Red Bull's decision-making process for their second seat has always been a topic of debate, and Yuki Tsunoda has made his stance clear. He's here to stay, with or without Honda's backing. The Japanese driver has openly stated his ambition to secure a Red Bull seat in 2026. When asked about the decision to promote Lawson instead of him, he admitted that it wasn't based on performance. "I still want that Red Bull seat at some point, but the choice was theirs, not mine. I had 3 calls from Helmut, Christian, and Laurent before the announcement. The first one was from Helmut, and they gave me their final decision. There was no point in arguing. I just said, 'Yeah, I get it. Good luck.' That was it. I just have to keep doing my job, and my mindset won't change." But the real shock came when Coda hinted that Lawson's promotion wasn't based on talent alone. He suggested that politics played a bigger role in the decision than pure performance. "Didn't ask why Lawson got the seat over me," he said. "From what I heard, it wasn't about performance. People are saying it was more of a political decision. Christian didn't give me a clear reason, and honestly, I didn't really care. I just told them how I felt and moved on." If this is true, it raises serious questions about Red Bull's driver selection process. In a team that prides itself on meritocracy, why would they overlook a driver with a strong track record in favor of someone struggling to prove himself? For Lawson, this only adds to the pressure. He needed a solid start to the season to justify Red Bull's faith in him. Instead, he failed to keep the car on track when it mattered most, and the team had to spend valuable resources repairing the damage. Meanwhile, other young drivers on the grid, like those in Racing Bulls and Haas, are also feeling the heat. Haas, rookie despite qualifying P11 in Australia, didn't even make it past turn 2 after crashing on the formation lap. It was a disastrous moment, drawing comparisons to Lance Stroll's infamous mistake in Brazil last year. However, since even Carlos Sainz struggled on a similar part of the track, the Frenchman might get a pass. But for Lawson, the margin for error is much smaller. If we look back at 2019, Pierre Gasly's turning point came at the Hungarian GP when he was lapped by his teammate. Now, Lawson has already been lapped by multiple frontrunners, including his own teammate. Starting the season this way, especially at Red Bull, is a dangerous position to be in. Concerns about Red Bull's driver choices aren't just coming from within the team. Even figures from rival teams have voiced their opinions, including McLaren's CEO, Zak Brown. While Brown has never shied away from criticizing Red Bull, this time his argument might actually hold weight. "I think this season is going to be very exciting," Brown stated. "Yuki did a fantastic job, and if you look at his performances, he's probably the one who should be in that Red Bull seat. But for some reason, they continue making strange decisions." This raises an important question. Did Red Bull make a mistake in choosing Lawson over Coda? Based on their performances so far, the Japanese driver appears more deserving of the seat. He has shown flashes of brilliance and proved he can hold his own in tricky conditions. On the other hand, Lawson's debut was anything but convincing, and if he doesn't show significant improvement soon, the team may be forced to rethink their decision. Red Bull has always been ruthless when it comes to underperforming drivers. They've made mid-season replacements in the past, and if history is any indication, they won't hesitate to do it again. If Lawson can't step up in the coming races, the question won't be if he gets replaced, but when, with everything. That's happened. What do you think about Lawson's future at Red Bull? And more importantly, does Coda deserve that seat more than him? As the season progresses, Lawson's future at Red Bull remains uncertain. The pressure is mounting, and in a team that demands excellence, he doesn't have much time to prove himself. A few more lackluster performances, and Red Bull could start looking for alternatives, something they've done multiple times in the past. Meanwhile, Coda's confidence continues to grow. He believes he belongs in Red Bull's main team, and his performance in Australia only strengthened his case. If he keeps delivering strong results, the team may have to reconsider their lineup sooner rather than later. At the end of the day, Formula One is a ruthless sport. One bad weekend can change everything, and for Lawson, the next few races will be critical. He needs to deliver, and he needs to do it fast. Otherwise, he could find himself out of a seat before the season even reaches its halfway mark. What do you think? Should Red Bull give Lawson more time, or is it time to move on? Let us know in the comments.